There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out, slowly feel all that's around you, all that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah. Welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Time. You are welcome here. Let's see. I think I got everything all sorted out, working itself out. It is good to be here. Let me know, India, what's my sound like? We're good. Thumbs up. Hey, Jennie, nice to see you. Thank you. Let's just breathe in this moment. John Stringer welcomed us to this space of transformation, where life gets to represent itself as us. And in this moment, it is a new moment. It is a new moment to recalibrate, to remember, to realize, and be restored and renewed. So we just surrender to this moment, knowing that everything is working together for our good, no matter what it looks like. We bless the technology as well while we at it. And we hold the vision, knowing that everything is supporting this moment because it has no choice but to support this moment because God is the only thing happening. The divine is moving through each and every one of us, and we're just here to co-create and create a new reality. So for this, and from that place in consciousness, I welcome you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, whatever you're feeling. If you're not feeling good, I am calling forth the best in you. And if you can't do it, just lean on me. I got you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening and giving yourself permission to be transformed. Kwali's in the house. Nice to see you, my dear sister. Arlen, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. And then Sherry. Hey, Sherry. I'm jacking that up too. Oh, yeah. Well, the last 30 minutes has been about trying to get names right. So I won't feel too bad. I think what I'll do next time, if I mess somebody's name up and they get upset, I'll say, well, try and pronounce my last name. If they say it right, then I'm in trouble. But if they don't, I'm like, well, we're even. So chill out. It's not that deep. I always find a way out. Why not? Well, who am I? I am Ade. I am your transformational beingness artist. I help you connect with your beingness, and you just could get to that place where you just sit with yourself and go, I love myself. I got some issues, but that's part of the that's part of the process, not a problem. The problem was you thought it wasn't part of the process. Okay, that was what was happening. Okay, but we can embrace all of ourselves, no matter what that looks like. You are listening to Being You, episode, what is it? Season 2, episode 8. And Being You is really about the journey back to yourself. And thank you for giving yourself permission. Today's Tuesday, January 23rd, 2020. I'm excited about this moment, and I have some wonderful guests that's going to be joining me. I'm going to have Peter join me for maybe the first 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to bring Jennie on, and we're going to have some conversation. We want to get into white folks' business. We want to make white folk uncomfortable. and those who are uncomfortable, we want to make you comfortable. But if you're comfortable, I want to shake you out of your comfortability. There is no more comfort in your comfort zone. It's time to wake the flip up. It's too early for me to say what I really want to say. Nah, I can't say that. I'm spiritual. I can't be using words like that. Om Shanti. Okay, stop it. Let me just do things check. YouTube. Hey, New Jays. You're the vice president in our YouTube channel because you always make sure you get there on time. We got India on Facebook. We got, I almost said grand evening, but that was Kwali saying grand evening. Yes. What else? I feel like there's some things I need to tell you. I need to tell you that the song that we always open up with is John Stringer, my dear brother, my friend. And that song is called You're Welcome Here. That's the invitation, you know. We must give ourselves the space to welcome ourselves to ourselves. And when we do that, we can really take a moment to contemplate who we are. And the podcast is about giving you an opportunity to see how you see yourself, because that matters. How you see yourself in the world, how you see the world itself. Well, it's actually how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you see yourself in the world, and how you see the world in you. So if you're in racist, but the world is in you, you got some things to check out. You're in denial. If you don't see color and the world is in you, yeah, you got a problem. It's not even color blindness. You got issues. And if you want to quote some other stuff about that other BS, I'm trying to be inclusive, but it's hard sometimes on conversations like this. Hopefully Peter will kind of calm me down. I did my yoga, lie. I did meditate, true. But I'm trying to. So anyway, let me just go on now. It is, and you know, I joke about it, but I know this conversation about white supremacy, white privilege, whiteness is triggering. It's triggering for Black people, people of color, and it's important to make a distinction because I've been having this conversation lately. Like when we say Black, when you look at the experience of Black people in America, African Americans, it's a unique experience from those of us who are in UK, who grew up in UK. It's a different experience, and all of it belongs, and we have to look at that. But and for all the people who are refusing to look, if you refuse to look, the muscles in your eyes will get tired, and you're going to be really blind. You won't see color, and you won't see people. What is going on with me? Let me bring Peter up because I am really off the chain now. I don't need to be saying stuff like that. Okay, let me read Peter's bio. Now, you ain't gonna go blind. You just be blind to your blessings. Peter Rubin is a transformational coach for men, which is one of the reasons I'm excited to interview him. And he says he's here to inspire and to connect people authentically and to help people unlock their full potential. His mission is to develop talented millennial men into visionary leaders. Come on, Peter. What about people who don't fit that title? They're too old for you to work with? We're going to talk about that. I'm forever a millennial. I'm at the cusp of it, you know? Just the cusp, I still count. Oh my God, what is going on with me? Nothing. I'm just being me. And if you can't handle it, that's your issues. He said he helps clients design their lives and rewire their belief system. There is more about Peter, but I don't want to spend, I don't want to do a book club about his bio and what he does. I want to bring him on, but you can go to his website. It is Peter K. Rubin, RUBIN.com. Peter K. Rubin.com. My brother, how are you? Oh, wait a minute. Let's try that again. There we go.
There we go. Good morning.
Oh, wait. This would help, wouldn't it? Okay.
If you want to
I'm
hear.
going to try and, if you get any echo, let me know. Feedback or anything.
Okay.
And India, let me know. So otherwise, I use.
All right. Ade, thank you so much.
So good. Thank you for rescuing me.
I have this mix of discomfort because we're talking about white fragility and white privilege, and I've been laughing the whole time. So thank you for having me here.
Well, that's usually the method to my madness. I'll make people laugh and drop a little bit of truth in their mouth. They're like, ooh, I do have some of that in me, because sometimes
it goes down better that way.
You said what?
It goes down better that way. It's like Nigerian Mary Poppins.
I like that. Yes. Let's go ahead and just trademark that right now. My brother, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. And let's jump in because we're going to bring another guest in real soon.
Great.
And how I found out about you was the bold step you were making. And it's funny as I say a bold step you're taking, which really I feel like it shouldn't have to be a bold step, but it is because of the kind of world we're living right now. You posted something on Reverend Deborah L. Johnson's website about offering your service for white people, to unpack white privilege and white fragility. And I said, I got to have him. And I'm grateful we're able to work it out. What I want to do before we jump into that is this podcast is called Being You. And part of being who we are on the planet is I believe every one of us have a mission. We're like a cell in the body. We have a unique function.
Yeah.
And one of the things that highlights the function, as I see it, is our names. Our names have meaning. So I want to ask you, you can give me meaning, both your name and last name, or just your first name. What's the meaning of your name, or what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I haven't actually gone that deeply into it, but Peter, I know it's based in the word rock in Greek. That's the rock.
Right.
You know, can you smell what Peter is cooking? That sort of rock. And it's
soul soup.
And it's interesting because I identify as a very sensitive man. I'm very in touch with my feelings and the water element in me. And it's good to reconnect to my name and the strength in sensitivity, the power in sensitivity, because I think sensitivity is misunderstood in our culture. It's fragility. It's something else. And as men, we're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be armored up. And the rock lives in me in a different way than you'd expect in a man. And Rubin is a Jewish name. My dad's side of the family is Jewish, and I'm proud of that. And I should know what it means, actually. Give me a moment to Google it.
Okay, cool, because that's important.
It is. I actually listened to your episode with Rev D. Oh, that's right. It means son.
Ah.
Yeah, or behold. I have done this research. Behold, a son.
So you're a rocky son?
So I am the rock. Behold, a son. A lot of power in the name, and I would like to research it more deeply. So
yeah.
Thanks for the prompt.
It says a lot about us, and sometimes we take it for granted. So thank you for playing with me. Jennie's got a head start. So let me ask you this question first. Even though the topic for today is unpacking white privilege, I want us to go in different places, wherever we're led. White fragility, how that shows up, why white people always have to feel like they have to be defensive, or they feel like,
hey, what? You're talking about us?
Yes, I know, right? Thank you, because you heard my thought. And I'm going to say they, and I'm going to generalize. So any white person who gets triggered, just ask questions, okay? It's not that deep. But sometimes, generally speaking, I feel like white people when it comes to this issue about race and injustice, white people run straight to the head, get intellectual about it, as opposed to really connect. And I want to talk about a piece that you posted on Facebook called something about getting what is I have it here, but I could easily just ask
numbness, you, right? The numbness in our white hearts.
The numbness in our white hearts. Yes. When I saw that, I was like, ooh, you're speaking my language. So for you, how do you define white privilege? What does it look like to you? What does it mean to you? Yeah.
And I don't know if this is my definition of what I've heard, is privilege being the advantages that we've received that are unearned. We won the birth lottery. I was lucky enough to be born to I actually won a lot of different lotteries. 2 loving parents. I think that's a piece of privilege that we don't talk about enough.
Exactly.
I grew up in Berkeley, a radical and safe town. And my parents are both really educated. They're lawyers. They do good work in the world. And we're white. And I've never been without enough money in my life. So all of that is, I didn't earn it.
Wait. Slow that down, because we need to talk about that part. Woo! I felt
chills. See, how long do we have? I hope a couple days, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Okay, I want to ask this question, and I mean, is it because when you, Peter, didn't have the money, you can always go to your parents?
Yeah, they're a safety net. Yeah, and I'm really grateful for that, and most people don't have that.
Yes,
and it's vulnerable to admit that on air, to be honest. But I'm happy to. Yeah,
I appreciate that, because that makes a difference. That makes a difference. And when we're talking about white privilege, and not to say there are Black people, African Americans, people of color that haven't had that, but when we look at just the history of America, history of UK, white people generally they can go to daddy or mommy and get some, it's just things kind of work out. You get people maybe, in their 40s or whatever, maybe not, maybe that, but always have to feel like, they're the first generation who was able to go to college, to earn a living, and everybody else has to do all kind of menial jobs. And that's important. That is important, and I appreciate that. Earlier you were talking about being sensitive, and I think what people miss, about sensitivity and love and gentleness is they miss the power of sensitivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is a power in sensitivity because you're attuned to things that is happening. So you're grounded.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes when you're just tense and hyper and aggressive, you're disconnected. Hence the reason you know, that's the reason you're aggressive, because you have to keep on the lookout. But when you're sensitive, there's a sort of steadiness, there's a stillness that informs your actions, your thoughts. So
Yeah.
So,
thank you. At my best, yes. But back to privilege. So those are things that were unearned. You know, I grew up, you know, screaming out of the womb, and I had those advantages. And all white people have certain advantages, not necessarily those specific ones that I had as an individual. But we're given the benefit of the doubt by police. We're not followed in stores. I could go on and on. You know, in this work around unpacking white privilege, there's long lists you can find on Google of all the ways white privilege manifests. And it's overall a sense of, I like this term, tailwinds. It's like if we're airplanes in life, either they're headwinds coming at you or they're tailwinds behind you.
That's it.
And if you're white, there are a lot of tailwinds. And I can just hear in my head, you know, I've had a lot of these conversations with myself and with my white friends and white clients. And I can hear all the objections in my head as soon as I say any of this. Like, hey, I didn't have all those advantages. I grew up poor. Or I'm gay. What are you talking about? I've gone through discrimination. And that's true. But each of these different identities, there's an intersection between them.
Yes.
And even if there are disadvantages that you experience because of your religion or your socioeconomic class or orientation, whatever that is, if you're white, you're still receiving white privilege, whether or not you wanted it, whether or not your ancestors were, you know, overtly racist. It doesn't have to do with any of that. It just has to do with living in a system that puts white people on top of black people. There's an assumption of superiority if you're white, inferiority if you're black and brown. And simply by living in this society, that is granted. You don't need to earn it. Even if you don't want it, you receive it. So we all have white privilege if we're white.
Indeed.
Even if we're not white, but we look white. There are people who might be, you know, mixed race, but have lighter skin.
Yeah.
Right. Or come across as white. Then you have white privilege. So I think that's the first level of defensiveness just to get past, is just admitting that it's a thing.
Yeah. That is a thing.
I'll share one more thing. You know, Rev D talks about this a lot. I've been following. She's been the main person I've been following in all of this. She's incredible.
Yes.
And she talks about these 3 layers or levels of who we are. And I'm
still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
I can feel you. Like, where did he go? No, I'm just giving
there you go.
That's all.
I was gonna say,
generous like that.
No, I like you here. Good to see your smiling face. So there are 3 levels. One is humanity. We're all human. We are all one. That unity is real. Level 2 is the ways that we're part of different groups. So I'm white and you're black. I'm a male, you're a female. However that goes. There are different groups we're part of. And in those groups, there are differences. And I think we're afraid that because of those differences, there's going to be conflict.
Yes.
And what she said that was so brilliant, it captured it so succinctly, is that it's not our differences that create conflict. It's all the othering and the polarization of our differences.
That's right.
And that reminded me of your mission that I read on your website before we spoke about celebrating those differences. Yes. Can we live in the world harmoniously, you know, as one, as one, and acknowledge that we're also different, and that adds richness and creativity, and it's just the truth. We're different.
Indeed. And
then level 3 is we're individuals. You know, yes. I'm a special snowflake. So are you. So is everyone. And I think as white people, let's say maybe especially spiritual white people, it's like, I love level 1. We're all one.
That's right.
Kumbaya.
Yes.
We're all one. Or we're all level 3. Oh, you're different. I'm different. It's so nice. They're all so unique. But when we start to talk about level 2, it gets uncomfortable.
Yes.
So the encouragement in this is not to deny that we're one. That's important. That's part of the healing. not to deny that we're individuals. That's important, but to really lean into that level too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny. A friend, a white friend, sent me. I think I would say whether you consider yourself progressive, the left or right, whatever, however you see yourself, whether you're for it, you see yourself as an ally, particularly if you see yourself as an ally and progressive. I think it's important to take a breath to always kind of think of what you're sending out, especially to Black people, people of color, about to show that you get it. Well, I don't know if this person was trying to tell me they got it, but she sent me a direct message of a picture of Martin Luther King that said he never looted. He practiced non-violence or something like that, and he changed the world. So when I first saw that, it's like, okay, so the whole thing about coming that argument of, oh, why are they looting their neighborhood? Shut the flip up. Just shut up, okay? Because I have little, I can listen, but I have little patience for that kind of conversation. Because if you want to talk about that, then we got to go back. What happened before we got to this place where people are looting shops? So when I saw it, I was triggered. I took a deep breath in, and maybe I can pull it up. But what I did say to her, well, what my response was like, well, that's debatable that he changed the world. And guess what happened? He still got killed by the government. And she replied back with an emoji like, I don't know, clap or something. But there was a part of it that was like, don't come back with nothing, please. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I might have to go off. And it's like sometimes we even want to romanticize the leaders who fought for the humanity, civil rights, human rights that were mistreated back then. I stumbled upon a documentary film, I think it was last night, about the Black Panthers. I was actually trying to just stay away from the computer and just watch something that's going to be a distraction. And then I saw that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch that. I shouldn't have. Well, it was very educational, because to see how the FBI infiltrated the Black Panther, how they demonized them, made them into terrorists. And they were there for the family. They're supporting Black people because they weren't getting the support. And anytime Black people gather together making a difference, they become a threat to the government. So they had to take out Martin Luther King. They had to take out Malcolm X. Any Black organization that gathers together, they make up all stories about them. And for white people, I really don't just watch documentaries like 13, but also go and watch the stories of the Black Panther, of what FBI really did. So
yeah, and it's happening now. You hear people saying, "Oh, we made so much progress." Look at Donald Trump talk about Antifa. Same exact paradigm. And when your white friend, I get it. I get why your white friend said that. It's violence is scary. So it's saying you should be a safe Black man. Look at this role model of nonviolence. I would be more comfortable if you protested in this way.
Yes.
And I talked with a white friend the other day, and who's Texan, which is always interesting. And I said, so what comes up, for you around this whole conversation around race? It took a lot to get to even that point in the conversation, to even bring it up. And he says, I'm just really angry at all the looters. I just don't agree with all the violence, and that's not the way to make things better. And a skill that I've developed over the years is talking to other white people. When I first got into social justice, I was hard on my white friends. Right? I was really...
Well, what I would like to ask white people who would talk about, I'm just not for this, or it's just peaceful. If they protest peacefully, that would be okay. First of all, Colin Kaepernick protested peacefully. They made it about the flag, about their ancestors and father, which had nothing to do with the anthem or the flags. Okay. But was this friend that you were talking to, was he as outraged about George Floyd being murdered?
No. So here's the thing is he talked about looting and how outraged he was. And I listened. That's part of my job as a white guy. I can listen to other white people. I said, okay. And just heard him out, and then said, is that all? Is that your only reaction to all of this is to be angry at the looters? Because if so, I think you've missed the point. Right. And then we got into a more substantive conversation about George Floyd and the other issues. But that, the conservative media, that's what the focus is. He says, I watch the news and all I see is the looters. And I go, oh my God, you watch different news than me. We live in this world where algorithms are feeding us the news that our political party wants us to see.
Yeah.
So it took a while, but we got deeper into it. And it's not our place as white people to say how change should happen. I don't think any of us know. And I think especially as white people, it's not up to us. And this revolution, I think this revolution is going to take many forms.
I think we do know. That's why people come up with that counter. Because if you don't have something in you saying, while people are highlighting Black Lives Matter, and you quickly go to All Lives Matter, there's something you say, well, no, we can't let that happen. We can't let that happen, because if we stop putting attention to Black people, then they're going to be equal. They're going to be seen as human like us. They're going to have the same privilege. If you can justify your own whatever by saying, well, I just don't agree with them looting, but you don't have as much passion as another man, another human being being lynched and murdered, that's because there is something else. So we find something that's convenient. It keeps us in our little box. It keeps us in that place where we don't want to change. And you talked about the algorithms. We all have algorithms in our own mind. So we find the things that's going to support what we want to believe. And if I'm not suffering, if I'm not in pain, I can't deal with other people's pain. Or even if I'm in pain, I can't deal with other people. I know it's horrible, but I can't. I'm kind of happy. My family is doing good. I wish I can do anything about it, but I can't. Oh, yes, you can. And I think there are many ways that we hide. And I want to ask you this question.
Can I say one thing about that before we move on? There are a couple things going on. One is hiding because it's uncomfortable to see it.
Yes.
Because our hearts aren't big enough to hold other communities. Or that's the sort of the tribalism, right? I can only care about myself and my family, right? Because there's security in that. I think there's also the fear of Black violence, and there's a monopoly on violence given to the police, given to the military. And there's a fear that if Black people are allowed to be violent, they take revenge on white people. I think that's coming from the guilt and the shame. After what, and I don't think this is conscious for many of us, but I have this somewhere in me. It's like, after what we did for 400 years, running a slave trade, and then various more sneaky versions of that with Jim Crow and beyond, we deserve to be, we deserve retribution. I'm afraid of retribution. And what I've been hearing is this line, you're lucky that we want equality and not revenge.
Oh, Kimberly Jones. Whew, that's
a powerful line.
Lucky that they're looking for equality, not revenge. And that's what white people are afraid of. Like, after all we've done, we can't let them be equal or set them free, because we know we're going to be in trouble. There is an inner knowing in us. Every one of us knows what's right and what's wrong. And we come up with stats sometimes. And I'm going to bring Jennie on in a minute, but I want to go to this, because I think to shift, to bring about change, we must be willing to go to the heart. When I say go to the heart, it's like we must be willing to be vulnerable. And I'm saying that because I know that's where change happens. It doesn't happen in the head. It doesn't happen. There's got to be an integration anyway. But you wrote a post, and as I was saying earlier, and I just love what you call it, the numbness in our white hearts. And can you tell that story? Because that was such a powerful story, and the things that you had to say. And I feel like sometimes white people are afraid to go to that place. They're afraid to go to the heart and tell the truth.
Yeah. So this was an experience I had in 2015 in a diversity workshop called Unpacking. It was Unlearning Racism. And it was at Stir Fry Seminars with one of my mentors, Le Moon Wah. And I was sitting in this room, And this is on Sunday, so we're towards the end of the weekend. And there was a Black woman sharing her story of being discriminated against at work. And she was in anguish, and I was sitting there, and the facilitator called on me and said, "Peter, could you offer a reflection?" And here I was put on the spot to try to offer some sort of empathy or reflection. And when I tried, I was just so numb and so scared. I felt just my heart was this tight knot. And I saw that she was upset, and I wanted to empathize with her, but I wasn't authentically feeling anything. I felt blank. I felt numb. I felt disconnected from her, from myself, and the group. And I thought for a moment, can I bullshit this? Because for everyone's sake, really, I didn't want to be humiliated, but I wanted to be able to offer her something, some sort of empathy, but I wasn't able to. So I just said, you know what, to be honest, like, I want to show up empathically. That sounds like a really hard experience you had. And right now I'm sitting here just feeling totally numb. I'm so sorry. And I thought people were going to yell at me and I was going to be kicked out of the workshop or something. But the facilitator said a couple things. He said, wow, in my whole time leading these workshops, a white person's never been honest like that. And, that's where you have to start.
Yes. Because
racism hurts people of color first.
Yes.
That's for sure. But it also hurts white people.
Yeah.
For you to stay numb like this, you've had to shut down parts of your own heart, your own soul, and your own humanity. And he said, don't worry, Peter, it will thaw. Stick with it. Keep listening to people of color stories. And you'll be able to offer what she deserves right now. So I sat in that, and that's when I made the commitment to do that work. I said, next time it comes to me and I'm on the spot to show up for a person of color and connect heart to heart, I want my heart to be there. For them and for me. And that's what led me to take his 2-year-long training a week or two later.
Yes.
That wasn't in my realm of something I'd ever do. Training to be a diversity facilitator, for me, that weekend was a stretch.
Wow.
And there's something else coming out of that and realizing that racism isn't people of color's problem, isn't for people of color to fix. And it's not just my responsibility, but it's my liberation as well. I got that this wasn't some checkbox to check. This was not separate from my own personal growth journey I'd been on for almost 10 years.
Yes.
I'd opened up everything, relationships and purpose and this, and social justice was the last place to look. Racism was the last place to look. And I realized that it actually had to do with me at the deepest level. The whiteness is a real thing, not something people are just speaking to. So.
Thank you. I like how you wrote it. That's sort of very succinct, because one of the things you said here that the trainer said is, and I want to read that because when I read that, I was like, ooh, that's just such sacred medicine. You said is it he? Yeah, you said he.
Yeah.
The truth is where we start. And the truth is that white supremacy harms people of color, and it also damages white people. It steals your humanity and numbs your soul. That's when it speaks for itself. I know I keep promising to bring Jennie up. Jennie, I'm coming to you. But I want to ask you, because it's one thing to say that it's about opening your heart, being vulnerable. But what was the catalyst for you to want to live from a place of integration, from your head and your heart? What happened for you to take that step and be able to speak that truth in a moment where you realize my heart is closed? I'm thinking of bullshitting right now, but I better not do that. What was that? How did you get to that place?
That's a longer story. That was 10 years into this sort of journey, but I really want to credit a mentor I had in college. His name is Julian Gorodsky. And I was an undergraduate student, or as a grad student when I met him. undergrad. I was in my senior year, and his job, he was a therapist in his 70s, and I was in my 20s. And his job was to support faculty and student teams with interpersonal issues. And when I met him, it was like an emotionally attuned father figure that I hadn't had before. And he showed me that sensitivity is strength. He gave me that model for what it's like to be a man who's sensitive and fierce and live from his own heart. I'd never met anyone like that before. And that was in 2008. So since then, it woke something up in me. It woke something in my soul, something in my makeup. And at that point, it just had a mind of its own. Whatever part of me that was, it got woken up. It just started taking the lead. And I learned that when I'm honest, when I'm vulnerable, it feeds me. It feeds people around me.
Yes.
And I don't know any other way to live. So usually I just say what's true. And then I go, oh, shit, what did I just say? And then live with that. And that got me in trouble in the corporate world. I was unfiltered, and that got me in trouble. And that's part of why I left the corporate world to be a coach. Because finally I could speak my truth and be unfiltered and vulnerable. And people appreciated it instead of trying to shut it down.
Yeah. The world needs heart-centered troublemakers.
That's right.
The world needs it, or we're doomed. I mean, because this tree of white supremacy, there's an oak tree that's been growing for years, hundreds and hundreds of years. The fertilizer is you got to be, if you're a white male, you got property. So the process you experienced was to bring you to, I'm a white male, but I can be sensitive as well. Sensitivity doesn't feed the white supremacy tree. So, and then when we have heart-centered troublemakers, we start to put different kind of fertilizer around this tree, so part of the branches will start falling off. And I keep saying this, one of the branches of the white supremacy tree is police brutality. It's not the only thing. It's just one aspect of it. But the more courageous white people who are willing to take that journey into their heart and be vulnerable and be afraid and feel the shame and feel the guilt. Yes, if you don't feel guilt, no, I want to say it like that. Feeling shame and guilt is part of the process. We just don't stop there. It's okay. It's part of life. We're going to feel, if it's not about white privilege, it's going to be about maybe things we didn't do or that we didn't do for our partners or our children or what. Guilt and shame is just part of the process. So get over yourself. I feel bad. Okay, great. There are people who've been feeling bad for all their lives. Okay. Yeah. Now, next, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. So, thank you for saying that, because I think there's a few reactions. Either, as white people, we want to push it away. Oh, I don't want to feel shame and guilt. In which case, we're pushing away a lot. Right? We're pushing away anything difficult. Or we stew in it and we dwell in it. Oh, no, I'm stuck in my shame and guilt. I think of it as an off-gassing. It's like a toxic off-gassing of our purpose. Right? Yeah. So when we're on our purpose, we're going to feel shame and guilt because it's uncomfortable. And the question is, can we feel all the way through it, into, that we're bigger than it?
Yes.
And then what action do we need to take to alchemize it into more energy, into more love and more purpose?
Yes.
So feeling a small amount of guilt and shame every day is probably a good thing. Probably means we're on track.
Yes, exactly. I would say our feelings, our emotion is a messenger of truth. It lets us know what's happening. But when we try to bypass, as Cindy said, spiritual bypass. Yeah, it's like, wait. And to be human, being human is to feel. It's not just to be in our head. I don't want to say think, but just kind of caught up in the head and not dropping down to the heart. Yeah. Well, what I want to do is bring in my other guest I keep threatening to bring on.
Do it.
And it's a dear sister friend of mine, someone who I love so much. I love her heart, the work she's doing. And, she has an organization called Drawchange. And this was birthed out of the idea of, how she sought refuge in art. And I want to read something about her here. She said, as a child, I sought refuge in art. It was my outlet, a way to cope with life stresses of growing up as a first-generation American. in Jersey City, New Jersey, a community littered with drugs and alcohol violence, drug and gang violence. The artistic creation process gave me a healthy outlet to express life struggles that I could not understand at the time. I had to act differently when out in public and learn how to survive and blend in as a daughter of an immigrant. And that's, people who don't want to see on the other side of that is people who maybe have to suppress their own humanity in order to blend for their own safety. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, psychic and skeptics, which I didn't do with Peter because I forgot I was all up somewhere else. Help me welcome my dear sister friend, Jennie. How are you doing, Jennie?
Good. How are you? I'm backing up because I'm way too big.
Let me try this. Let me see. Let's do this. So I want to.
Well, why don't I hop off while you two talk, and I'll watch.
Absolutely not.
You keeping me on?
You stay right where you are.
Okay.
We're gonna sandwich you, white man. And
all right.
Get you go deal with your
forward to listening. I've been talking for a while.
All this pain.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited and a little anxious about this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. That's and that's the thing. As I said earlier, it's this uncomfortability is part of the healing process, isn't it? Right? It's like if we don't feel that, it's hard to get our own attention. Like, why do I feel this way? And something in us is always telling us when we feel uncomfortable. Anyway, before I go ahead of myself, Jennie Lobato. We've been playing with names earlier. As I was saying earlier, I don't know if you heard with my podcast, it's about being you, recognizing who you are, recognizing your own soul signature. And for me, names are part of that expression of who we are. So, Jennie, you can tell us the meaning of Jennie, or you can do both, or whatever. What does it mean to you? What does it mean?
A lot. So my name for Americans, my name is pronounced Jennie, but my name is not Jennie. And it's not until recently that I realized the reason why I just really hate it when people call me Jennie. And it's because to me, it strips away all my culture, which both my parents are from Uruguay, and I'm a quarter Portuguese as well. And my last name is Portuguese. It means of the wolves. And my name is misspelled because when my parents first came to this country, it's when I was born. And my mom did not know English. So she asked my 10-year-old brother, what do you want her name to be? And my brother said Jennie. And my mom wrote Jennie in Spanish. And now for the rest of my life, I'm dealing with this Jennie situation where I understand, Americans will call me Jennie, and I get it. And my name is extremely important to me. My name symbolizes my last name. My whole name and my last name symbolizes my culture, symbolizes where I'm from, everything about me. And also it leads to typecasting. So that's a whole other conversation. But my brother went ahead and named his children Quinn and Logan, which are very white names. And I laugh at him because I think it's funny because their last name is still Lobato, but he did it because that comes to show you for him also his first name is Carlos, for him how much weight his name has held his entire life. So I could go on for an hour just about my name.
I understand, which is why I like to bring it to the conversation. I've gone through, actually I never used to use my last name, and then I start using it. And then sometimes just like, forget it. Just call me Ade. Just what is it like when people mess your name or call you Jennie? Or they don't say your name right. What does that feel like?
It's a trigger. It throws like what Peter was saying. It throws that I'm not like you in my face, and it throws my And then when I say, oh, it's actually a lot of times I don't even correct people because it's just not worth the whole conversation and the whole time. But I sometimes get rebuttals like, no, it's Jennie. And I'm like, okay, you know, and it's very, I think disrespectful, very dishonoring, very much like, I don't care, you know, it's just a name. And for me, it just holds a ton of weight, and a name that I'm proud of. And I considered changing the spelling just to make Americans say it correctly. And I'm not going to do that.
I know that's right. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Oh, I felt the energy in there. You're like, no. But it's funny because it's one of those things that could be called microaggression, but has a major impact about how we are, how we are seen in the world, and affects where we belong, and people often miss. This conversation about white privilege. What are your thoughts on it? No, really. I heard really.
Okay. I think it's real. I think I'm ecstatic that it's like a common term right now. I've experienced it my entire life. I am also excited there's so many people acknowledging it and also dissecting it, because like Peter was saying, there are many, I think he called them stopping points, but like many layers to it. And I think that it's just so real. It's so real. It's, you know, in what I've experienced everywhere that I've lived in the States is that people look at me and they're like, you're not Black. But then again, you're not white. Oh, you must be Mexican. And it's just like, and I get that from white people. Not any better, but Black people will just call me Black. So I don't know. I could say so much about it. I don't know where you want me to take that.
well, it's good, because I wanted to share your experience, because, you know, as Peter was sharing, and you know, Reverend Deborah L. Johnson, she does a lot of training, different trainings, and I've been part of her training, and she just have a very a powerful, insightful way of breaking down things. Because if you in the Western world, in America and UK, white is the norm. And if you're a man and you're white, then you're top of the norm. Everybody else is kind of like, you're kind of human, but you're not, because you're not white. So, of course, when you show up looking the way you look, people are kind of like, wait a minute, where do you fit? People are trying to figure out where you fit, because we now have to put people in a box so that we can stay fitted in our comfort zone, as opposed to learning and asking questions. And we get intimidated by differences. You know, white supremacy is all about that. It's this fear. Oh, there's so many things I can say about that and just America and all that, but I won't go there. Now, let's talk about this game you played on your Facebook page few days ago. And I call it an imagination game, because that's what it was. And tell us more about that.
So in Drawchange, in my nonprofit organization, we do an imagination session before every session, before we do our artwork. And the imagination session is just that. And, you know, we reiterate, this is all in your imagination. It doesn't have to exist in real life. And the reason why we do that is because I strongly believe that to create any kind of change, never mind changing your life, you need to first be able to imagine it, to envision it happening before you could even get it. Like, I want to imagine, or I'm going to imagine, or I have a thought that I want to live somewhere other than Atlanta. Okay, well, I had to have that thought. And for my Drawchange works with impoverished children around the world, and it is my experience that poverty leads to having your imagination stifled. So I actually didn't create it. I'm not taking credit for it. But I shared a post on my Facebook page that says, imagine it's 2025, and when there's you are able to call a domestic hotline because there's a domestic dispute in your neighbor's house and a counselor shows up and talks them down. Imagine if a friend of yours is attempting to commit suicide and you're able to call a counselor instead of a police officer. So it was just that. It was like 5 or 6 scenarios of imagine. And it kind of really blew up. I'm not going to say blew up.
Kind of?
Yeah, there's 74 comments on it of people like immediately, kind of like what Peter was saying, white people getting defensive of, oh yeah, well, what's going to happen, if they show up at the house and someone is armed, and what's that counselor going to do? Or, oh yeah, what will happen if, and it's just like, that's not at all what my post was about. So it's kind of comical and really, really sad. And I'm really, at the same time, I was encouraging comments because this is a conversation that needs to happen. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate that, in my opinion, poverty exists, or in this case, let's call it a poverty mindset exists from a lack of being able to imagine a better world, a better life for yourself, a better situation. And I'm asking adults, because there's only adults on my Facebook page, to just close your eyes and imagine and don't rebuttal. It'd be like me asking a child in one of my programs, imagine a rainbow outside, and them saying to me, I don't want to imagine that. Or like, what does a rainbow look like? It's just like so beyond the point. And
no, it's raining right now. Why should we imagine a rainbow?
it's like so, so silly and hurtful, I guess. I'm not personally hurt, but hurtful that people could not, or took that post somewhere completely different than where it was based out of fear, in my opinion.
Yeah. And when I was talking to Peter just before I brought you on, and I'm going to bring you back on, Peter, and I want to have a conversation about that. What I'm sensing is white fragility keeps white privilege alive. There's this sensitivity that you can't get to the core. Because people are like, what you mean? What you mean? He's done more for black people than Obama did for black people. It's like, shut the flop up. Just shut up and listen. Let me bring to include Peter in our conversation. It's like, so this whole thing about white fragility and the book by Rubin D'Angelo, I'm reading it, and it's actually giving me, it's putting words to things that I felt, but I didn't have the words for. And let's talk about white fragility. Peter, what have you experienced? Especially you work with men, right? And how does it show up in the men? Do you work mostly with mix, or you work mostly with white men?
In the past, it's been more of a mix. These days, it's mostly white men. And
is that by your doing, or just happens to be, it just changed?
It's a bunch of different factors. It's quite interesting. Most of my clients work at Bay Area tech companies. So that culture is pretty white. So there are various reasons we could go into, but I just want to say, Jennie, it's like so typical that you have a question about visioning that seems pretty innocuous, right? Let's vision a better future. It's not some controversial, provocative post where you expect defensiveness, but even something that inviting, that warm, that you think we'd be open to. Right, let's imagine a more beautiful, equitable world together. It triggers this immune response. I think of white fragility as this immune response, where it's like a knee-jerk defensiveness, where sometimes we don't even know what we're protecting. I say we because I'm, no white person, even those of us who are doing the work, are immune from white fragility. But it's like you're confronting my worldview and my identity, because white identity is at stake here. Right. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be destabilized. I don't want change, because no one wants change, but especially for white people, when you've had it pretty good, why do I want to envision a world where I'm not on top? And it's all subconscious. It's not like, oh, I'm consciously disagreeing with this. It's just that knee jerk. I don't want to go here. And it turns into either a shutting down, the freeze response, or it can actually be violent and aggressive. So coming at you and saying, but white lives matter. Right? So you've seen that, where that fragility actually comes across as it can be dangerous, frankly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jennie.
No, I mean, there's just so much. It's all fear-based. It's just all fear-based. And the thing, to add to that, we're just imagining. Like we're playing, and everyone on my Facebook page knows, I mean, my background is not this way for today. Like, this is my background all the time. You know, like people know me, know I work with kids, I'm childish. I mean, there's a picture of a rainbow right here. You know, it's just, and the fear that something might be different, but part of the point is that we're not dismantling anything that is working. So for people, anyone to think that the way it's functioning now is workable is just like, you know, I don't get it.
It's you know, I got to say this, and I'm actually trying to pull that post up because I really want to read. I can
send it to you on here privately because I have it up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then because also there was another video thing that I did that a white lady responded to a black woman because she was talking about some white people don't want to see. So I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to pull it up, but it's too far down. But maybe I can pull it. And and I'm really curious to hear your point. You be the white people representative. And yes, you don't speak for all white people. And anybody else who's saying I'm trying to make him speak for all white people, you can go sit down somewhere. You know, because ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody.
I do appreciate the disclaimer, though. Thank you.
So I think I found it. Okay, so it's I mean, I really want to understand this because that's why I'm actually pulling it up. So so here's Jesus. I still get triggered by this kind of foolishness. So somebody mentioned a black woman said, if you see, then you're obligated to act. And most white people don't know what to do, so they refuse to see. The first comment this woman made, a white woman, on this video was, she called a person out. She said, racist remark. Whites can see. Prayers to you, racist, and living in the past. Victim mentality.
Good God.
What's that about? I mean, I literally, and because my response to her, she called this person saying, if you see, you're obligated to act. And most white people don't know what to do. This white woman read this comment and said, racist comment. You're racist and you're living in you're coming from a victim mentality. And my first post to her was, racist comment, like question mark, please. I really want to understand. Peter, would you call that white fragility or just stupidity? Because I don't get it.
Maybe it's a combination of the two, and I don't know how much I can say around her that's useful, but I think that fits to me in a category of comments where any acknowledgement of race or racial differences can trigger certain white people to say that's racist. Why are we talking about race? To talk about race is making it worse. And I hear people saying it in a less aggressive and crass way. But it's more like, how are we going to fix the problem if we're not acknowledging it for what it is?
Yeah.
Right? We all want a world without racism. But the way to do that is not to put our head in the sand or to ignore it. It's to acknowledge the problem that's there. It's like if you go to the doctor and you have a gaping wound, the approach isn't to be like, oh, most of your body looks healthy.
Right.
No, acknowledge what's not working here.
Right.
So that's one aspect of what I'm hearing. Also, I'm looking at, I guess these are in a private chat, but these are beautiful, these imaginings of the future.
I thought so.
And I also just think imagination can be really triggering for people. Right?
Say more about that.
I think in general, humans are resistant to change. Even those of us who are change makers and want to create change. So anything like this is a very powerful sort of invitation out of the status quo. We talked about emotion being powerful rather than just living in the head. And story is very powerful. You know, we're mythological creatures. We live on myth. So Jennie, what you're sharing is a new mythology, a new cultural script that we could be living into. And I think it takes a certain centeredness or balance to feel comfortable enough in one's own skin, let's say as a white person, to entertain a new imagining and imagine that it could be positive instead of a threat. So that's probably some of what was happening as well.
Yeah, and I think I think you said something about that earlier. Once we invite people to go inside of themselves, it's a scary place to be. So people would rather not go in there and even demonize you for even suggesting. And I think this is where what your trainer said really plays a role when he said white supremacy harms people of color, and it also damages white people. It steals your humanity and numbs your soul. It's like not wanting to imagine or get defensive or make something that's far from being a racist comment, more of an observation, and go into victim mentality. And there was some other post that she posted on there, and I responded another time. I said, "You're clueless," and then she came up with some other BS, and I just said, "Nope, I'm not even giving them my energy," because I think those people are like vampires. They need the energy of fight to stay in their comfort zone of ignorance, and my energy is too precious. I want to ask, well, we're good with time, so
can I say one thing on that?
Yeah.
The victim mentality thing always gets me. When you have people who've been actively oppressed and marginalized, actively, and to then say, oh, it's a victim mentality is just so wrong.
Yeah. It's the narrative of even saying black people are lazy when their ancestors were brought over here to work for nothing. And you put them through hell.
Yeah.
Day after day after day after day. And the descendants are proving you wrong, that you cannot hold us down. And you can still find it in your mindset somewhere that black people are lazy. It's crazy. So I want to sort of kind of get a little bit more personal, and I'm going to start with you, Peter. How are you experiencing yourself in this day and age as a white man? What is it like to be a white man in this day and age? Is it easy? Is it challenging? Are you learning from it?
There's a lot I can say. It's not easy. I basically redirected my entire professional focus, over the last, how long has it been? A month? I'm losing track of time. It's been wild, right? Since George Floyd was shot, I actually had a minute. Murdered. Yeah, shot and murdered. I'm quite clear on that. Thank you. And I had a moment of not knowing what to do. And then a friend of mine actually called me in. She said, Peter, your Facebook posts seem like they're not really speaking to the times we're in. What's going on? And it was a wake-up call for me that
What were you posting? What did he call you on?
Oh, just the same old shit that I always post about, my garden and the beach. And
were you aware that you were doing that? Were you kind of
no, not consciously. There's again, I'm being honest, there was a resistance in me to the magnitude of what was happening. And the magnitude of George Floyd's murder and what it meant for this racial justice conversation. And I'm living in a cabin in the woods in Santa Cruz. So I'm in a bubble. I'm in sort of a white bubble here. And And her post really rocked me to the core. And I go, oh shit, I'm out of alignment. I need to engage.
Is she white?
Here. She's Syrian.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Dear friend of mine. It was the most loving call out, by the way. The first line was, Peter, I love you. And those are the ones that get me the most. When someone just loves me and says, hey, you might want to look at this, that's when I completely unravel. So it took me a couple days to just unravel and say, look, I don't call myself an expert, but I've been doing anti-racist work for 8 years. I've done a 2-year training to be a diversity facilitator, and I'm needed right now. And my courage and my voice are needed. So my first post was sort of a calling myself out, saying, hey, I took a vacation from anti-racist work. Sorry, I'm back. And then since then, I've been pretty engaged. Another friend of mine asked me to co-lead a workshop. So I'm co-leading a workshop with Galen Logan and Wanda Whitaker, 2 incredible Black facilitators. And it's for white people. So it's called Free Yourself First, a journey of healing and action for white folk. And Galen called me up. We've been friends for 5 years and collaborated before. And I was just such a yes. Whenever he has an idea, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So that's been my main focus is working with them to develop this curriculum and this program for white people. So that's been my journey.
I want to come back to something, and I'm going to go to Jennie as well. But I want to come back to something that I think is important, and I would like to hear your process there. And Jennie, and I would even be, as I'm asking you both to kind of be personal, I got to be personal because I want to ask you a question, and I'm thinking, do I refer to Jennie? I've known you so many years now. Do I refer to you as like, how do you experience well as a Black woman? I'm like, no, she probably does this. Or maybe people, personal color. And I'm going through this in my head as I'm trying to come to you to ask, how do you experience yourself in the world? And I wasn't sure if I should refer to you as Black or personal color. So that's my transparency while I'm having you guys share your deep stuff. Where do you see how do you identify? I guess let me start with that. And whatever you say, how are you experiencing yourself in the world as the identity that you're holding?
I identify as human. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna take a break. We'll be right back.
I identify as a Uruguayan American. I was born and raised in the United States, but my blood is through and through Uruguayan. Like I mentioned, with some Portuguese thrown in there. So that's what I identify with. When I have to check a box for anything here in America, I check Latin American. Technically, I'm not Latin American. I'm South American, and it's just the whole thing with that. When a Latin box does not exist, I put the most outrageous thing like Eskimo or Alaskan or like
Eskimo.
I get so like that. If you scroll through my Facebook, you'll see every single. I mention it every single time. Like, why doesn't it exist? And how have I been dealing with it?
And not just how you're dealing with it, how are you navigating life with all the tension and the protests and the changes that's happening, people speaking up? How are you navigating all of that?
For the first few months, I was mostly worried about the children that I work with and how they were dealing with it all, being that they're, 99.99% Black and homeless, or the children that we work with overseas are all impoverished and are prejudiced against just because of that. So they're all minorities. And I was really concerned with that and helping explaining to them as much as possible throughout the whole COVID thing, explaining to them what was going on and how they can continue to do this amazing artwork to escape from their reality and process everything that was going on and let them know they're not forgotten, all that. So I was focused on that, and I still am. However, because of the nature of COVID, I just like my hands are tied right now. So how I've been dealing with it lately is I have been more public, front facing about what I feel, because I feel that people, like I mentioned, don't see me as Black, don't see me as white. And so therefore I don't have as much of an experience of racism as other people might. And I don't know, I'm not going to say I do or don't, but I am going to say that I've experienced racism my whole life. And I have lately been, I don't know, I mean, just speaking up about it in the sense of always from the perspective of Drawchange and what Drawchange has been doing for the past 11 years to break this cycle, because these children, and we work with ages 5 to 10, these children are born into a mindset that they're not good enough, that they're second-class citizens, that now not only are they stuck in the cycle of poverty and homelessness, but they're Black, you know, or they're minorities for some reason, they're refugees, you know. So that has always been my focus, and that continues to be my focus. And at the same time, now that I posted that imagination post and all these adults can't imagine, I'm just like, maybe even like going towards that way a little more and being like, hey, lighten up, just close your eyes and dream about, like, if your room was filled with gumdrops, gumballs, what would you do? Like, it's just like it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to just take yourself somewhere else through your imagination. And from that will come a lot of other places you can take yourself, like imagining if I can call a grief counselor instead of a cop to come help. You know, a cop's just going to take me to jail, whereas a grief counselor can once and for all end this cycle that I have of wanting to harm myself.
Yeah. I want to go back to Peter, but I guess that's the next question that I have for you, Jennie. We can kind of do that towards the end of the show. So I want to go back to something you said earlier, Peter, about how you've been doing anti-racist work for about 8 years. And when George Floyd was murdered and lynched, that it was, I don't know if that's when you stopped, but you'd stop kind of like more focus on that anti-racist work. Did it happen because you thought, okay, I need to pull away to kind of get myself together? Or because where I'm trying to go is I'm trying to understand the process that you have been doing the work for like 8 years. And then here's a incident that happened that highlight the work that you're doing. But I'm trying to see if there's another word. It's not but you said you were posting about your garden and things that you normally do. And I want to understand, and I'm not really, it may feel like I'm calling you out. Maybe I am calling you out, but I just want to understand because, because I feel like you can go there and share. It gives us a better understanding of some people who are not willing to be that open. What was happening for you that made it, air quotes, easy to step out of this is why I do what I do, and it happened, but I want to tell you about my garden. No judgment. No, telling about garden.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I called myself out first. So I mean, I think this is the thing is, as white people, we don't have to engage with these conversations. You know, privilege is a privilege not to have to deal with it or see it. And, you know, I wish I could claim that I was, you know, every day, like every single day of the year, I was engaged in these conversations. I think that's sort of my ideal self, you know, would be doing that. But there's life. Yeah. You know, I went through a big breakup in January. I was having health issues. And I just, you know, I needed to move into the woods, be a hermit, and take care of myself. And I look back at it, and I don't think that was the bad choice or the wrong choice necessarily. I just, you know, I was focusing on me for the better part of a year.
Yeah.
Again, that's an advantage or an option that I have as a white person that people of color don't. And there was some serious shame that came up when I realized that that's what I'd done, and there's a way in which I let myself down first, because I made a commitment not to come in and out of this conversation. Right. So there's a reckoning with sort of my own integrity. That said, you know, I was willing to come back and feel the shame and guilt and get back into action. So there's both you know, I think we do need to stay in, those of us who do care passionately, you know, and we need to stay in and keep showing up. And I feel like I am actually getting that at a level deeper right now. And that's tied to bigger questions of how can this work be sustainable for me? You know, like, how do I make a living and do this work? These are real questions.
Right.
So, you know, yesterday I actually canceled my schedule and just took a day of a mental health day. It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot to integrate. So I think we're all figuring out how do we engage with this as not just some news cycle that's going to get everyone fired up for a couple of months, but how do we stay in here for the marathon?
How do we stay in here as well? Like in ourselves? Because it is a lot of work. It's just so much damage and wounding that's happened from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that really now has an opportunity to be revealed. And there are Black people who are walking around feeling anxious, who are worried for their children, for their brothers and sisters, or themselves. You know, people are trying to pull themselves up from being depressed with all the news and what's happening. There are people who are afraid to really hope because they're thinking, "Ooh, if I hope and nothing changes, then that's going to be hard. So I'd rather just kind of wait and see." There's a lot going on that I don't think is often addressed because it's the internal work that we can hide from, right? Yeah. Jennie, how are you navigating in this moment? And what I mean is, what are you doing to help you keep getting up, having these kind of conversation? You and I had a conversation a few days ago. We practically talked all day about this issue, which was kind of interesting, but very empowering for me and very healing. What do you do on a day-to-day basis to kind of help you stay centered and grounded?
I appreciate the question. Not enough. It's very hard for me to shut it off. I cannot. I have not learned how to do that yet. I have a lot going on in my personal life with a move and things like that. And that on top of all of this, it's just like I have not figured out how to shut it off because poverty does not end. And those children are still stuck in the homeless shelters, first of all, because of COVID. And now they're stuck learning about all the stuff that's going on outside the homeless shelter. So I can't stop. I don't know. So it's not a good answer, but it's my answer. I create art to relax. I've been doing some jigsaw puzzles. I stayed away from social media for 2 weeks and I got back on, I think like 2 days ago, and I regret that decision. This morning, I already shared like 3 things. And I'm like, see, this is why, because there's a criticism I've seen in multiple places, both from business fronts and personal fronts, people saying, if you don't post something telling me that you support Black Lives Matter, I'm unfriending you or not supporting your business. And I posted a whole video on Facebook about that because I don't agree with that. Because that's just social media. There's so much that goes on with my personal life outside of social media. And if I don't personally say, oh, this is how I feel about the Black Lives Movement, if you don't know me and you know how I feel about that movement, then just, okay, I'll see you in another life. Yeah.
That's right.
And same thing with my business, with my nonprofit. If you feel like you're not going to support us, even though for the past 11 years and 11,000 children, you've seen from the pictures that they're 99% Black and minorities, okay. And if you're going to donate to Drawchange out of pity, I don't want that. I posted a video about that too. Drawchange doesn't want your donation. So it's just, I don't know. I kind of went that way with it, but
no, it's fine. I hear you. You're passionate about your work, and kind of like both of you are saying is life is happening, as well as the deeper life happening, and there's a constant balancing act that we don't end up losing ourselves in the path or the battle, if you will, the fight for justice and healing. You got we don't always find the balance. I mean, there's sometimes I look at what I'm doing, I'm like, you are literally not getting enough rest trying to help people find their own center. How does that even make any sense? Sometimes before my show, I'm running up the stairs trying to get things ready so I can come here and sound calm. It's like, dude, this doesn't make any sense. Just stop. And then welcome to this. Thank you for tuning into the Ade show. It's like, don't stop. And so it's a constant dance. And I think we have to find our own balance, the awareness. I want to ask this question. I'm trying to bring it to an end, but I really want to ask you this, Peter, since you're here. You said right now you're working mostly with white men, and I know you're offering your service to have a conversation with white people, but especially white men. Are they and you're doing it for free? So are they taking you up on your offer, or you getting excuses, or it's just crickets?
I'm having some conversations, less than I thought, but I've had probably a half dozen of these, and they've been really rich conversations. So my intention in offering that was both, to out of my own curiosity and to take the load off of people of color, to sort of educate white people. I said, look, I should be the one here talking with white people who are struggling with this stuff, and the mostly guys who've signed up have been really genuine. I had a conversation the other day with a guy who comes on and says, okay, what should I do? My response is like, nothing right now. You are stressed. You're not in your set. Take a breath. And we just spent 15 minutes meditating. I said, what? Like, just let go. It's okay. Feel what you feel. And he's feeling guilt and shame and overwhelm. The image that came to mind is he had this like atlas, this huge globe. He was trying to carry the weight of the world himself. And he was crushed under it. Yikes. And he said, do me a favor and just let it go. Let the ball go. Trust me, we'll get to actions. But for now, let it go.
Yes.
And he breathed this huge sigh of relief, and you could feel you see some color returning to his face. And
color, no pun intended.
No color, yeah. A little bit. He was a little bit less
I didn't miss that.
like a ghost. And by the end of it, he said, oh, okay. And he felt like his normal self. I think sometimes white people get so stressed, especially white people, who care, who want to do something. And he seemed more like his creative self. And then in the last 5 minutes of our conversation, I say, okay, now what are 5 things you can do? And he had some brilliant ideas around art making, community gathering, some introspective work he wanted to do. So that's why this workshop that I'm co-leading is called Free Yourself First. We really need to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
I think this idea of being the good white person, coming from this place of stress and should, just doesn't help anyone. Like you don't just want our robotic actions. Like white people have gifts too, right? And like you want our full engagement. You want our hearts. You want our gifts to be engaged in this conversation.
Yes.
And I also want to say something you said, Jennie. It's like as a woman from Uruguay, you're sort of missed in this. I think this turns into black and white. The way we polarize everything, left and right, red and blue, rather than seeing that there are a lot of dimensions. There's not 2 viewpoints. We all have our own viewpoints. We all have our own belief systems to bring to it.
Yeah.
So more of that. That's the multicultural or the multiplicity of this. It's not simple.
Yeah. You know, you talked about the guy saying, "What should I do?" Sometimes action is a distraction, you know, because sometimes what we need to do is to come back to ourselves
Mhm.
and get honest about what we feel and feel what we feel. Because if we can do, then we don't feel what's going on here.
Mhm.
So that's why I appreciate you like taking him into himself. And from that place, like, because if you know what to do, if you're thinking it up, then it may not be what's needed. We got to make room for it to rise up. Like, what is needed? What is called for here? Maybe it could be like, just go on a 3-day, 6-day silent retreat. That's what you're doing for humanity,
Mhm.
you know, because there's so many things that we do to avoid feeling, to avoid being, and then to be very impactful. The other thing I want to ask you before I jump to Jennie is, you
What'd you,
said you, huh?
what'd you call me?
Jeannie.
Okay. There was a mixture there of the two. Go ahead.
Well,
I heard it too. Way to call him on
I
it.
think I heard it, and I was like, "What did I just say?" And they said, "What you just called me?" I was like, "Oh shit!"
Read it. If you read it, say the wrong thing.
Well, pronounce my last name. No, don't do that. That's my ego self. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't even listen to me. But no, I want to ask you, Peter. You said you've been receiving less than you thought. Do you have any idea of why more men, more white people, white men or white people reaching out to you?
I don't know. It could be an algorithm thing. I'm
Okay.
just I don't know, right? It could be as simple as that. But my guess is it's terribly uncomfortable.
Right.
Men are on many levels. Men are conditioned to not reach out for support. First of all,
True.
so to ask someone, "Hey, you don't even know me. Come talk to me about get support about the most vulnerable thing we could talk about these days." That's a tall order.
Uh-huh.
You know, so for someone to see that offer and then click the link and schedule the time, I think,
True.
you know, it's a big leap. But I also sent it to my mailing list,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I would expect more people to take it. Maybe I'm scary. I don't know. I don't think I'm super scary.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody outside of us is as scary as our own thoughts.
Yeah.
And what I would want to say to pass on to your people is, whether you feel like shit, feel like this is too much to carry, I can't do this, or maybe, you know, police officers who are saying we feel picked on.
Mhm.
I think a reference point is a lot of Black people, African Americans, has been feeling this for all their lives.
Mm.
And they have to keep moving forward. So when I hear the police are feeling picked on, they're feeling demoralized, I get it. I have compassion. I understand. As someone whose heritage is Nigerian, if there's news for a whole month about what's happening in Nigeria or why Nigerians or whatever the case may be, yeah, I'm going to feel like they're picking on me. And it gives me a perspective to look at it from a different perspective, to have a different perspective for other people. Like, if you're a police officer and you're feeling picked on, well, there are Black people who's been feeling this for 30, 40, 50 years, 70 years. Not seen, picked on, demonized, oppressed, made to feel smaller than small. Jeannie, if your young people that you're working with in these homeless shelters, if they had a collective statement, sentence, or something that they want to share with our world of racism, a world of how we treat people that we think are less than, who are living in a homeless shelter, who are homeless, what do you think they would say?
I've actually asked them that question several times, and we have an art project specifically based around that. And we've gotten things like, I wish racism didn't exist. I wish there were no more viruses in the world.
No more what?
No more viruses like COVID. They come from it from an angle of, you know, they're 8-year-old self, I just wish this didn't exist. Like that's just where they are. And they completely feel like they are a part, they are the victim in it all. They feel that way because for them to say that, I just don't want this to exist. I wish for world peace. They say that all the time. I wish that everybody got along, and they'll draw like a white hand and a black hand holding. They are extremely present to what's going on in the world, and just wish they could wish it away.
Yes. I want to read this quote, especially for the work that you both are doing.
Can I ask you something, Jennie?
Yeah.
Does it give you hope when you see young kids with that sort of imagination? Does it, lift your heart up and have you imagine a better future as well?
Oh yeah, especially when we our target age stops at 10, but we often work with teenagers. And when a 14-year-old that's already, heading down the mindset of everything we've been talking about and buying into that he or she is less than, and then through the course of the art project that they can come to, I wish I would have pulled it up. I have this beautiful poem that a 16-year-old wrote and incorporated it into his artwork about, I dream of a world where people get along, where they this, where that. So just that processing. And I saw that Cindy commented especially for families that volunteer. We have families that volunteer together, and they can then teach that to their children. But yeah, definitely gives me hope, which is what has me so committed and so like headstrong for what I do, because we see it time and time again.
Yes. So I want to kind of release this conversation with this quote, which I find for me, it affirms a vision that I've always had, and I just know it to be true. And it's a quote from somebody called Rubin Tagore. I posted it on Facebook, and I posted it on YouTube in a minute. But he said, "The one who plants trees, knowing that..." Hold on, wait a minute. What just happened? Knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. So the work we're doing is not even for now. We're just planting trees. Some of us is not going to see the peace that we want to see in the world in our lifetime, but we have a responsibility to cultivate that peacefulness, that peace now, so that our descendants and ascendants, however you want to look at it, that those who come, we get to experience it through our children, our nieces and nephews that are yet to come. And I am grateful for the work that you all are doing in the world. It is needed. It is needed. There's so many things I could say, but it's needed, and I commend you both.
Yeah, likewise.
Give us your Jennie, give us your handle, your website address, so people can find you, and anything else you want to share. Maybe anything you're doing, any kind of support or whatever you need.
It's drawchange.org. So it's all one word, Drawchange. And it's a play on words too. It's like you're drawing change and then you're attracting change to you. And I saw you just put it up. And Drawchange on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, even TikTok, even though we're still trying to figure that out.
Oh, TikTok. I want to see that.
We're still trying to figure that out. We need support. We need support in every which way, tangible and monetary, to help with the trauma that we are getting ready to, when we ever do get to go back to the children. We need support. And you can find out about all of that on our website or social media outlets. Thank you.
Somehow I'm making this assumption, and I'm going to roll with it. Peter, I'm assuming that you have a lot of affluent clients If they don't know what to do, drawchange.org.
That's great. And I also welcome more affluent clients. So
and so it is. I'm with there with you. Maybe you could hook me up with your parents.
everyone,
great guy doing some great work in the world.
Hey, mom and dad.
Right. Okay, let me stop. My mind is going places. I'm not doing it. I am not saying that. Okay, give me your website, handles, anything else you want to share with our listeners.
I'll share one thing. We shared my website earlier, but I'm really excited about this workshop series. It's actually a different URL. It's going to be at racialhealing.net.
Okay.
Pop that in there. It's not up yet, but it's a workshop called Free Yourself First, a journey of healing and action for white folk. It's starting August 8th with Galen Logan and Wanda Whitaker. And this is going to be amazing. It's a deep dive journey about the history, the present, and the future of race and reconciliation. And over half our profits are going to Village Connect, which is Galen's agency, supports the Black community in San Leandro.
Yeah.
So it's good work. If you're watching this and you're white, come check it out. It'll be live soon, or message me and we can chat one-on-one. And if you want 30 minutes of my time to unpack your white privilege, that offer still stands. So
what are your handles on social media? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok?
Yeah, they're there. PK Rubin on Facebook. I'm not really on Instagram and LinkedIn so much, so Facebook's the place.
So if they want to get a little
TikTok
bit,
is way beyond me.
Yeah, I see other people do it. I haven't even gone to look at the site yet. It's like, no, I can't. I just Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, I could do with that.
That's
so
enough.
if they want a drop or two of vitamin P, they can come find you, huh?
That's right. That's my alter ego.
I'm so grateful for both of you. Thank you for sharing yourself, your stories, and the work you do. I truly appreciate you both.
Yeah, thank you both. This is a good time.
Yes.
An hour and 40 minutes just flew by.
I know, right? I'm like trying to wrap it up. I'm looking at time, like, come on, man, wrap it up. People got things to do. But I got them here now. You said what, Jennie?
No, I just said keep up the good work.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Love you both.
All right. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. This thing called life. Thank you, Shakina. Shakina said, love the conversation. Thank you, Ida. Thank you, Jennie. Thank you, Peter. Somehow I want to say other name instead of Jennie. I don't know why that's even happening. But yes, thank you, India, for being on it and doing the work. Thank you, listeners. And those of you, thank you, Joel. I appreciate you, my brother. And share the conversation on your wall. Get a conversation started. Put your comments on it. Let people know why it's important to listen to it. And, the time is right. And there are people who feel like, well, I hope this is not just a moment. Like they want it to be a movement. But a movement is made up of moments. So that means we keep doing the work. We keep doing the work. We do the work on ourselves and we do it together. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves. Sometimes it's easy to say we owe it to our children. Yes, we do, but we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to create a life that we can, almost like Jennie was saying earlier, a piece of art, like, wow, look at the perfect expression that I added to that mural of humanity. We owe it to ourselves, and it's never too late. For some people, it is. So we give thanks that they're going to eventually transition, but what we do for the world, we do for ourselves. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this platform, to have these kind of conversation. It's a new day. Next week, I have young people joining me, sharing their point of view, how they see the world, what they're doing, how they're living, and how they're allowing themselves to be pulled by a vision instead of just being pushed by pain. We must be willing to be pulled by a vision. Pain pushes until vision pulls. We got to have a vision or else we transition. It's time to release this conversation. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. We're going to release the show with John Stringer, the songs that we play all the time. To find out more about John Stringer, go to johnstringerinc.com. johnstringerinc.com. Also, let me see if I can find his what am I trying to say? YouTube. No, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something better. So he released a video last week that I'm actually part of the people that were featured. And it's called The Power of Love, Black Lives Matter. I strongly recommend you share it. I'm going to click. Yeah, I think this is it right here. And take a listen to it. Especially, oopsie daisy. Okay, wait a minute now. Shh, I'm doing a show. Stop talking. Let me just hold on, wait a minute. And it's another way of looking at this hashtag that is so much more than a hashtag. Black Lives Matter. And for those who seem to have come on. I'm trying to be professional. Stop getting in. Okay, right. There we go. All right. Now I can post it. Post it. Take a look at it. Post it with your white friends, whether they're an ally or resistant or no, stop. Maybe they're an ally or not. I know India. Or whatever they are or whatever they're not. Share it with them. They're still going. The ones who are not allies will come up with some other fertilizer. AKA BS. Okay, so I post it in there. But anyway, we're going to post it on Facebook as well. I think that one came from YouTube. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. We're in this together. And we are truly, truly born for such a time as this. This is John Stringer. You are welcome here. You're welcome to be all of you. No apologies. Let your light shine. Peace and blessings.
There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allowing unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community.